A very good morning to all of you, my dear students. After many days, I am before you. Yes, friends, we are observing a story, The Gardener, written by P. Lakesh and translated into English by H.S. Raghavendra Rao. I have already given introduction to this story. That one old man who was a laborer, overseer and a philosopher, all rolled into one. That man comes to a coconut grove near Chennarayapatna for work. The owner wanted a person exactly like this old man. And then his work starts in that coconut grove near Chennarayapatna, and then immediately after within a few days, there was a drastic change in that grove. The thefts, what were there in initial stage before entrance of this old man, have come to an end. And the disputes were there among the laborers in that coconut grove. That also has come to an end. This old man has solved all the problems, and even with the help of the laborers, he increased the profit from the coconut groves, the land. And initially, it was only 10 acres of land, and then it increases to adjacent lands, and the owner purchased the more land to his account. And when this happened, the richness or the property or the money has flowed into the life of the owner. Excess of money makes a man greedy and allowing that man into having some habits, that too bad habits. What Lankesh writes here, I will quote here, even though he had precious little to do, that man, he meant the owner. His life became crowded with colorful events. Then, about his adultery, he has got involved in umpteen other vices cultivated lately. Was about his adultery. This all made very sad, very sorry to the wife of that owner. In that meantime, this old man tells a story. He narrates the story like this. There was, in a village, two people were there. I have told this to Tamanna and Baswani. Initially, there was a competition between these two. If Tamanna purchased 4 acres of land or 10 acres of land, Baswaya followed the same suit. And then gradually, initially it was an healthy competition. But after that, after some days, after some months, this competition changed into rivalry. This is bad for human beings, but even though this rivalry has appeared, and then there was no land. This rivalry has increased in such a way that there was no land left in the village. The lands either belonged to Tamanna or Basavaya. For example, there is 1,000 acres of land in that village. Either Tammanna or Basavaya. Tammanna has got totally 1,000 acres of land and Basavaya 800 acres of land. Once this Basavaya asked Tammanna to sell his 200 acres because he is less of 200 acres of land. So he wanted 200 acres of land from this Tammanna. But Tammanna in return told Basavaya that sell your all land, I am ready to purchase your 800 acres of land. This was a rival. This was not a competition but a rival. But Basavaya did not accept this proposal. And the Basavaya, encroached Tammanna's 200 acres of land. This was humiliation. And then the supporters of Tammanna, there were supporters of Tammanna and Basavaya also. The supporters of Tammanna gave advice to Tammanna that either they have to encroach the land of Basavaya or there are other measures to get your 200 acres of land in return. What was the proposals? To go to the court or to get the help of the police. These were the advices given to Tammanna from his supporters. But Tammanna was in other side. But Tammanna was in search of other method to suppress this Basavaya. What was that? He thought, he hit upon the idea of composing all his experiences in the form of ballads and singing them. All these ballads include Basavaya's cruelty and his mean-mindedness, all this. Now the rivalry between the Tammanna and Basavaya start moving away from things that were visible towards invisible, that is abstract domain. So then Basavaya, when Tammanna started to sing ballads, Basavaya had no answer to this. He also tried to sing, but he couldn't. So Tammanna's songs started making a mention of Basavaya's cruelty and his meanness. Scholars of folklore were after him. Critics started analyzing and translated his songs and thus earned their share of the fame and name. Basavaya helplessly watched all this. He encroached more and more into Tammanna's land. Tammanna did not notice all of these activities. Because what Lankesh writes here, that art had become the raison d'etre of his life. That means reason of his life. He was felicitated as the best poet of his times. Basavaya shrank in humiliation. He built a palatial building. He got some more admirers and artisans and musicians. He called musicians. But his palace or palatial building looked empty because there was not books of Tammanna. One day, Basavaya came to know that Tammanna was ill. At that point, Basavaya found the means of surpassing Tammanna. Health is wealth. You may sing, you may write ballads, but if Tammanna started suffering from disease, surely his own spirits would be revived. Tammanna's disease was Basavaya's health. If Tammanna dies, Basavaya wins. This is the thought of Basavaya, not of Tamanna. However, by this time, Tamanna had thought of yet another. First, he thought of singing ballads about the cruelty and meanness of Basavaya, and now he thought of another method. That was method of punishing Basavaya. How to punish Basavaya? That was death. That was death of Tamanna. If I die in the eyes of Basavaya, this rivalry ends. Such was the thought of Tamanna. So, but if his songs were separated from his body, and if there was no relation between the songs and his own flesh and blood, this is how his thoughts went. And then the old man says to the wife of the owner, that's when he realized how strange human nature can be. And in this context, Lankesh writes that some philosophical phrases, philosophical thoughts, I quote here, man needs wealth. Of course, wealth is very important for the life need of a human being. Man needs wealth, education, art, and many more things. And yet he lives. Having all these, yet he anxious about getting some more. What he doesn't have. What Jesus in his one of his poems says, ಇರುವುದೆಲ್ಲವ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇರದುದರೆಡೆಗೆ ತುಡಿಯುವುದೇ ಜೀವನ. What you have, we are not sufficient, we are not plentiful, we are not happy in what we have. But what we have not, we are searching, we are in search of what we have not. This is what Lankesh writes. Yet he lives for some kind of unbearable vengefulness. Without it, there would be no reason for his existence. So, after a particular age, man loses his name and fame. Then, when all of a sudden, here Lankesh was a very important, realistic fact between Russia and America. There was a battle between Russia and America. Suddenly, Russia told America that I am not your enemy. I don't want to fight. I shall not wage a war against you. Against you means America. This was very shocking news for Russia. When there was not a rival, how can he suppress? So, what Lankesh writes here, a nation is capable of withstanding strains like this, but a human being cannot. So, Tamanna says he suffered a similar fate. And then Tamanna says, I thought my death alone could destroy Basavaya. So, he gave up everything and started off from that village. A few days after left, Basavaya passed away. He had no more reason to live because there was no rival. There was no rivalry. There was no competition. And then he says that, my name is Tamanna. After his death, he forgot all his songs and ballads. He, who was once famous with name and fame, became non-entity because there is not a rival, there is not Basavaya, there was not Basavaya to give competition, to give rival. So he says that, thus I avenged myself. He avenges himself. And in the same manner, he told to the wives of that coconut groves owner, your husband is flourishing today as a rich man. He is rich, of course he is rich. But he is not amenable to any advice. When the richness beyond your limit comes to you, you are amenable to any advice. We are not hearing anybody's advice. Man is so complicated. that till the day of his death, he goes on living for some revenge or the other, confronting one challenge or the other. And in last says Tammanna that, Amma, don't think otherwise. I am not telling this story to suppress you, to get your sadness more. But just assume I did not tell you anything, any of the story. Or think all this happened in a dream. Yes, this was the story. This was the story written by Kaka P. Venkatesh, translated by SES'S. There should be competition. There should, well, but within a limit. But if it limits, if it beyond the limit, we will be in bad habits. So this should not be there. Rivalries should not. Competition, healthy competition should be there, as according to P. Venkatesh in this story, The Gardener. Thank you very much.